Howdy, everybody. Welcome to the Brother Sister Show, a family-owned and operated podcast where two siblings keep in touch by talking about movies. This week, we're talking about Anthony's pick, Green Room. But before we get into that, howdy, Anthony. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad. I don't know if this is going to be our last spooky episode, is it?
I don't know. That's remained to be seen.
If it is, I'm so happy with Green Room because it's such a good movie, but we don't have to get into it now.
You've seen it before, right?
Yeah, I've seen it before, but I appreciate it so much after this viewing. But I'm doing great.
I forgot how good it is.
Doing great. I got nothing going on. Kayla's birthday is coming up. It's her 21st.
Ooh, and you're still a little baby boy.
Still a little baby. Barely hit double digits with the 20.
What?
I'm just messing around.
Oh, that does not check out.
Yeah, I mean, just here.
Birthdays during COVID sounds really dumb, but what are y'all doing?
I think we're going down to San Antonio and celebrating with her family. So I'll get to see Patty and Elliot soon. I kind of miss them.
I have my own annoying little creature that follows me around. I don't know where the hell he is. Oh, he's eating.
Yeah, my roommate's dog, he doesn't like me. I don't know why.
I wouldn't like you either. I don't like your energy.
I guess. I don't know. But looking forward to the Xbox too. That's around Kayla's birthday, and
oh god,
she loves Assassin's Creed, and I was showing her the new one. She's really excited for it.
How did she feel about the movie?
Oh, the movie. She loved it. She watched it like 3 times when it came out.
Shut up.
She did. She's also a big Michael Fassbender fan. I'm just playing. I just said that. She looked at me right now with the horrified face. So she hates Michael Fassbender. So if you're listening, Michael, I'm sorry. But it kind of is a little bit of movie news, but it's a good transition. But I saw Assassin's Creed and Netflix. They're gonna do they're gonna make a series, an Assassin's Creed series. So
great.
Woohoo!
I'm excited. Yay. So I have to move my mic real quick.
No, you're good.
Okay, sorry. Interesting. About what?
Assassin's Creed. I don't know.
I've seen that movie. I've seen that movie, but I still have no idea what the fuck it's about. About that world, anything. That movie.
It's cool. It's. Do you
play games?
Have you seen the Da Vinci Code?
Da Vinci?
Da Vinci?
I have a long time ago.
I watched it recently with Kayla. I think I talked about it on here.
Yeah.
It's kind of I don't want to say it's the same premise, but in the movie, both Da Vinci Code and Assassin's Creed, they talk about the Templars and how they're going out. I don't want to get into this too much, but they're how they're fighting for this thing. It's a religious thing. I think it's in the Da Vinci Code, it's the Holy Grail. And in Assassin's Creed, it's the Apple of Eden.
The only thing I remember from the Da Vinci Code is Tom Hanks' hair.
Yeah. He has luxurious hair. If I want that hair now.
I need to. Well, first of all, you can never get that hair, so don't even try. Second of all, Sebastian could get that hair, so I'm going to send him. The other day, he was send me outfit inspo. Oh. And so I'm going to send him just... I'm not going to even say anything. I'm just going to send him a picture of Tom Hanks from the Da Vinci Code, and then I'll see what he says. Maybe I'll put outfit inspo. You
should do from the forehead up, so he doesn't even know where it's from. And then he's oh yeah, I could. I mean, that's okay. And then it's boom, Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci. Amazing. That's the best meme I've seen this entire year.
Honestly, this year's been so long. I feel there's a lot more memes, the Lady Gaga, lady singer.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
She's I think it's a staged video, but someone walks up to her and is I'm off the deep end. And then she sings the rest.
Song?
The Shallow, yeah.
Holy shit, that was this year.
I think that was this year. I mean, like Area 51 happened this year, I think.
No, it did not. Did it really?
I don't know.
This year's fucked. I was listening to Tiny Meat Gang Patreon. So you probably haven't heard it yet. But they were talking about Cody was talking about how this is going to get weird, so hold on. But how people think that the world did end in 2012 and that we're like just in some weird limbo right now.
Yo. How fire would that be?
I don't know. And he was saying like we could have like went into a black hole and now we're in it, and I don't know. Honestly. Wow. Yeah.
I don't even know how that'd work.
Yeah, he was kind of explaining it, and I don't think it's actually a thing, but it's interesting to think about. I think conspiracy theories, when they're not like harmful, can be fun.
It's just a way to cope, right?
Well, and then people just fucking ruin it, and then they turn into like weird shit, and they turn into Facebook groups that have to get disbanded because people are fucking stupid. But yeah. Wow. Anyways, that was just funny that you brought that up. But
yeah, what's
anything
up with you?
else? Oh, okay. So I actually did watch stuff this week because I needed to quiet my brain. So I just watched stuff while I worked. And I don't know if you knew that Blumhouse did 4 horror films that they put on Amazon Prime.
No, I did not.
And it's kind of like what Hulu did with their, I think it's like Into the Darkness series. But there are 4 just totally different movies that Blumhouse produced, and they were interesting. I watched one during the weekend, and then I watched the 3 after that yesterday. All yesterday I watched them back to back. There's one called The Eye. I was going to pick one of these, but there's one called The Eye that it just had like a commitment to just annoying the shit out of me. Joey King was in it, and I don't know why. Like, it's the girl from the Kissing Booth movies.
Ugh.
I mean, no hate to this girl, but like anytime she's in a movie, I just instantly get angry.
Oh, really? I don't even know who the girl is. Kissing Booth just makes me sad.
She's in other stuff too, but in this movie, her character was irredeemably annoying. But so that one was not that great. It had a really good cast though, other than her. She's fine. I think it was just the character that made me hate her. But the next one I watched was Evil Eye, which had an interesting concept. I don't really like how they did it though. I want you to watch all of these, so I'm not going to spoil it because I think they're all pretty good. They're kind of like Lifetime movies where they're not bad, but you can just like put them on and just watch them like casually.
Oh, okay.
So I recommend that. They're really good to watch like while you're working. You can still kind of keep tabs on what's happening. Then Black Box is another good one. It's kind of, that one is very Black Mirror-ish. And it did have like a good, not twist, but it just had a good plot line that I didn't expect. Like I was still kind of surprised by it. So that one was good. And then my favorite one was one called Nocturne, because its ending, I don't want to spoil it, but I gasped at the ending. Like there's this one specific shot that I think you would like. So if you're going to watch any of these, I want you to watch Nocturne.
Nocturne. How long are they? They're like full movies?
Yeah, I want to say an hour. It's like in like 90 minutes, maybe. Tight 90. They weren't that long. They didn't feel long. That's why I said they're kind of like Lifetime movies, because they're really self-contained and just like gets through the story. The Lie is good. Okay, so this is my official ranking of them. I liked Nocturne the most. Black Box is probably the next one. Even though I was annoyed through The Lie, it did stress me out enough to like constitute it being a horror film. So that will be third. And then my least favorite is Evil Eye.
Gotcha.
But I'm interested. Hopefully you have time this weekend, maybe, to see it.
Maybe.
At least one of them. But yeah, they weren't like super scary. None of them were actually like really scary. They were more like thrillers.
Oh, okay.
One of them actually kind of scared me. Well, it creeped me out. But yeah, that's what I watched. I don't really, like, personally, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was able to do, I don't know when it's going to come out, so I won't give details, but I was able to do my first guest appearance on a podcast. So
That's
I'm
big.
excited about that. Yeah, it was, I can talk more about it when it's released. I think it'll be in a couple of weeks, so we'll see.
That's cool.
But yeah, I got to talk about a movie I really love. And it was interesting. I mean, I know you've been a guest on a podcast, and like, for whatever reason, I think because I'm so used to doing this one, because we're doing it for over a year and like hosting it and having like everything prepared, it was more nerve-wracking. Like, I don't get nervous for these, but I was so nervous to do that. Once I got over my nerves, it felt really organic, and because it was on Zoom, it just felt like a Zoom conversation.
That's nice.
But yeah, I'm somebody that I like to be prepared, and I like to, that's
Definitely.
why I like to control the notes. And for this one, I didn't have any notes going in. I just kind of like relied on them. And yeah, and it was just interesting to see the way like another podcast operates. But yeah, excited to talk about that once it's out. I do have some movie. Oh, I actually have a bone to pick, and then it's like also a movie news thing, because you went rogue on me, and I don't appreciate, because I was just talking about how I like to control everything.
All right.
So explain yourself.
Here I am, Wednesday afternoon, editing the podcast as I do, which I know you don't believe me, but I do. And
Editing selfishly.
I was editing, and we were like, you said, I don't know exactly how the conversation went, but it was along the lines of like, is there any movie news? Nah, let's just go to the movie. I don't even remember what movie it was, and then that was it. And I was like, there had to have been something. So I looked it up, and then boom, it hit me in my freaking face like never before. And I was so ashamed that I didn't bring it up. I had to step in and notify the people if they didn't know. You couldn't
wait.
No, it's so important for the culture that I had to let them know.
How embarrassing. You embarrassed me.
I mean, we leave these breaks in. I figured it'd be fun to leave a little Easter egg, because it was like just me.
You know what? For this one, or if I probably won't have time, but one day I'm just going to send you an audio file and be like, put this in and don't listen to it.
Don't listen to it. I mean, we could do that. I'll legitimately do that.
That'd be fun for us. Nobody else would give a shit, but I think that'd be hilarious.
That's for our listeners, but the entire episode. They don't know what the entire episode is going to listen. Or
okay?
You know what I mean?
No, what?
Because,
okay?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I sliced my finger a couple days ago.
Oh, yeah. Just peel correctly. Like, how hard is it?
All right, here's what happened. Kayla was like, oh, we could just like, I'll peel them. It's fine. Like, you go do your work. And I was like, no, I'll peel them. I got to get better anyways. And I got to get faster.
At peeling?
Yeah. I was like, I got to get used to it. I got to get better, because I'm pretty new to this cooking thing. And then I sliced my pinky. Okay, here's what happened. The potato was oddly shaped. It was like kind of dented, so I had to move like awkward. It wasn't just like a nice swift peel. And then it just slipped, and then it nicked my pinky, but it didn't go all the way through. It went like 3/4 of my pinky, and kind of graphic. So if you don't want, just get 15 seconds. It was bleeding a lot, like a lot. Well,
hands just bleed a lot. Your hands and your feet, if you ever cut in your head, they just always bleed all the time.
Yeah, and Kayla was just like watching me, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, do I take it off? Do I rip it off?
Oh,
but I just left it.
It'll fall off.
Yeah, it looks kind of gross. I've been keeping it wrapped just because I don't want it to get infected or anything like that. But I had to pour alcohol in it. Man, that was rough. because I didn't want to get potato in my finger. So I had
you are potato though, right? So
yeah.
Wow, I had to practice peeling potatoes. What a life we live.
You know.
No, I mean, Mom always makes fun of me because I always have Band-Aids on me, but I'm always hurting myself. Like I just do the randomest things. The last thing that I did that hurt myself, and like, oh, it doesn't hurt anymore. It kind of does. I wonder if there's something in it. I don't know. But the last thing I did was I was trying to wash a vase that I had, or it wasn't even a vase. It was like a pitcher, and I used it as a vase.
Oh no.
And then when I was washing it, I was literally just pouring water in it, and the handle just broke off. And it kind of hurts when I touch it still. So I wonder if there's like a piece of glass in it. I don't know. It doesn't hurt when I press it. Who knows? I think it might just be tender still, but
oh yeah, this hurts. Like if I can't type with it, it's like just at that right point where it would be where I press shift or control, or it's pretty annoying, but that's something that happened. But yeah, Spider-Man. I think Ricardo sent me a TikTok of it like being debunked, but I don't even want to hear that. That's just naysayers right there.
Oh, well, you already said what it was, right? I mean, you can like tell us again.
Oh yeah, it was just Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming back for not only Spider-Man 3, the Tom Holland one, but for their own solo movies again, like continuations. So the third for them. But what
would be the point? Money?
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter what the point would be. It just needs to happen. But there's an article where Sony said the casting has not been confirmed, or something like that. Hasn't been confirmed yet. So that's not a real debunk in my mind. I mean, they could just be all coy with it and then have the reveal be bigger. I don't know. Sony, the history with Sony and Spider-Man is just tragic. That's all I have. I don't know. We can move on to the movie. I'd rather talk about the movie. I love it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you already said everything that needs to be said. Wow, what a sentence that was. All right,
let's take a quick break. We'll be back.
A punk rock band is forced to fight for survival after witnessing a murder at a neo-Nazi skinhead bar in Green Room. Written and directed by Jeremy Saulnier. Yikes. Starring Anton Yelchin, Imogen Poots, and Alia Shawkat.
As for the monies, it was estimated budget is about $5 million. Opening weekend, it made about $88,000. US, it grossed about $3.2 million, and worldwide, it made about $3.8 million. So not too bad. And as for how the critics received it, thought about it, 7 out of 10 on IMDb, but we can just negate that right off the bat. 91% on Rotten Tomatoes and 79% on Metacritic. We can also negate whatever Metacritic said, because it's a fantastic movie. I don't even want to I just want to go straight to the point. I love this movie.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
It really is.
And I forget, I mean, I've seen it maybe twice before this viewing, maybe 3 times. And I just forget every time how fucking good it is. All right. So, well, first things first, I didn't realize that it was an A24 movie also.
Me neither. I was very surprised. No, not super surprised, but I just don't remember. I feel like it'd be no, I was going to say a Blumhouse or Blumhouse. I feel like it's more just like that, like grittier feel to it. I could just imagine that little chair spinning like the intro rather than the A24.
Oh, yeah. I think it's one of those things where like after the fact, I was like, oh yeah, of course it's an A24 movie.
Mm-hmm.
But when I saw it, I was like, oh, like pleasantly surprised. But A24 does that. They have a lot of good movies in their catalog that you would forget are A24 movies.
Right.
So they wake up in a van, and I instantly was like, there's no fucking way I could ever be in a band like that didn't have money, because like sleeping in a van with 3 disgusting men. Can't be me.
I mean, they're living it up.
Could not be me. It sounds like a fucking nightmare. Another thing about this movie, there's tons of things about this movie that make it amazing, but to me, the best thing in this movie, or at least one of the top 3 things, is Anton Yelchin's performance. And I want to talk about him a little bit because I don't know if people know this, but he did pass away in 2016. And this was actually the last theatrical release that he had after, I think it was after he passed away, because I do remember watching this movie. I wanted to see it like from the trailer because it was very much, I knew it was exactly everything I would love. And so, yeah, I know I watched it. I'm pretty sure I watched it after he died. So there's a lot of scenes in this movie that feel emotional, and it was like even more emotional for me because I was such a big fan of his. And he was so young when he passed away, and I don't really want to go into the specifics because it's like kind of horrific how he died.
It's very tragic.
But yeah, at least I don't know if you've seen him in a lot of stuff, but there's one movie in particular, like to me, this is my favorite performance of his, but he has a ton. Like there's one called Thoroughbreds that he's in. And I think that was like another later movie that he was in that he's really good in. And there's also one called Charlie Bartlett that I love that has like Robert Downey Jr. I think Kat Dennings is her name. Like it just has a good cast and he's really eccentric and really fun in it. Yeah. I don't know if you have any like memories of him in a movie that you want to talk about, but
I don't. Not that I can think of, but I will say he's by far my favorite part of this movie. His character is just like, I don't know. I really enjoy his character and just.
He's just the kind of actor that makes you like, I don't know. He would make you sympathize so easily with his characters.
Yeah. He has a really nice voice too.
Yeah. Ugh. Another thing, I don't know if I put it in the fun facts, but I didn't realize it, that because Sir Patrick Stewart is in this movie, and then Anton was also in, like they were both in Star Trek movies or franchises. I don't think he was in the same one. I don't know the lore of it, but I thought that was cool about that connection. But yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to talk about him because we're going to talk more about him because like you said, he does an amazing performance in this movie. And I think he really takes it from just a just a regular thriller into something like so much more.
Right.
But yeah. Alrighty, moving along. Another thing about this movie is that it has such strong visuals. The first few things was them pushing the car. Well, we've opened on their car, like I said, or their van, and it's just like plowed through a cornfield. And I really love that visual. And then them pushing the van because they don't have any gas and then the battery's dead. So they have to like push it.
Right.
That was shot really cool because the camera was like in the field, like looking at them through it. That was amazing. And then them driving through that highway looked really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know where this takes place. It feels like Portland, but I don't know if that's true. But yeah, I have a couple of fun facts about this first couple of scenes. So the first one is that they had to buy 2 acres of corn for the overhead shot that I was talking about. Fall foliage was creeping into the Oregon landscape, and they had just missed the summer harvest. So they had to buy and plant all that corn, which I think is worth it, even though it's like 2 minutes in the movie.
It's definitely worth it. It's like I don't know. It's just like, you just really like, man, their car's in a cornfield.
I know. They must have just like crashed into it and it was like, let's just sleep.
Yeah.
Another thing was that this opening scene was the director's happiest day on set, as the cornfield locale was beautiful and they had a full day to shoot the setups. He says of all the photos taken of him on set, only ones from this day show him smiling. I mean, it'd be kind of strange if he was like in that like concert hall with all the like Nazi flags just smiling. But yeah. It is a great start. I love when when scary movies like this like have a really beautiful or just like peaceful start, and then it gets wild. All right. And so they wake up. Oh, so I skipped a lot, but they go to this guy's house. I guess they're just like staying at his place because he's hosting them for a concert. They wake up and Pat, which is Anton's character, he lets this guy with a crazy mohawk in. And a fun fact about this scene is the seemingly simple shot of Pat waking up and opening the door to let Tad, so like the guy with the mohawk, into the apartment ended up being a nightmare, as it required reversing the hinges to allow the door to open from the right. The film was a union shoot, and the overtime cost astounded the director. He said, quote, "My production designer may or may not have snuck in over the weekend and reversed the hinges on that door." So I don't know a lot about union, but I know that they have like super strict rules when it comes to like working hours, like if you have an animal or a kid on set, just like stuff like that. So, yeah, so they probably, I've never changed the hinge on a door, so I'm assuming it's not fun, but yeah. I also love that he's interviewing them and they have this conversation about them not having any social media. Like they just go to concerts or they just like book their gigs on the phone, or I don't know what they do. And I thought that was hilarious because I work in social media.
Yeah.
They're like, no, we want to live in the moment, dude, or something. I don't know. Some hippie
this
shit.
is my first like mental note that I took, because this is where Pat gives that little, not speech, but he just talks about music and how, like you said, he just like, it's there, it's an experience. And it kind of reminds me of Middleditch and Schwartz, because their live shows, they're just there for the moment. Like their improv shows, they exist for that hour and a half or however long. And I mean, they say that in the show too. It's like it's gone after that. I just like his little speech where he's like, music's just like that. Like it's just for everyone there, and then it's gone.
That's interesting that you bring that up, because we get later, like in this, we get a couple of like scenes of them performing, but the later one where they're at that like compound, the lead singer does look like, after the first song, he looks at them and he's like, what are we doing now? So It does feel very improv, which I never thought of. So interesting note. Yeah, and it does, like the whole social media thing, like whatever. I don't know if that factors into it, but like, as me and you being people that have seen their improv show, it does feel special, even though I have the worst memory. So I like kind of wish it was recorded. But it does feel like, oh yeah, I went to the Austin show and that show was funny. But
yeah, I mean,
I wonder if it's like that for this band, where like some shows are good, some are like, but it's always like curated for that crowd, which is,
it'd be really funny if it was just really shitty and they just don't want anyone to record it.
They're like, yeah, but the last show was good and like nobody will ever know. All right, so the kid is interviewing them, and he says that he tells them right after the interview, they're like asking about the details for the show. He says that his last show he had, like, people are like, I think he said somebody like shit on the floor. They just had like, it was just a bad time. And so he lost his permit to have the show, and they're like, well, what the fuck are we going to do now? And so he's like, well, I have a solution. And they cut, this is my favorite, one of my favorite scenes of the movie is when they cut to them playing at a restaurant, and they're just, because I don't know if we see exactly what kind of band they are. We can see, but we don't like ever hear what kind of music they make. And it's like, well, it's punk rock, but they're just like screaming. And they're just in a Mexican restaurant just screaming at the top of their lungs. And it's hilarious. And they don't have any money. Like I think the guy gives one of the bandmates, I think her name is Sam, he gives her the money, and she's like, this is $6 per person.
Yeah.
and the other guy is like, well, we got rice and beans. So
that's rough.
What else do you need? Yeah. And then they're pissed at that Mohawk guy, and he's like, you know what? I can find you a gig. And he calls, and he like, I guess he makes sure, because he said it's like with his cousin or something.
Mm-hmm.
But before I move on to that, they decided to go do it because he said it's like $350, and that's obviously more than $6 a person. But a couple of things about this, I'm not going to go away from this restaurant scene because it's fascinating to me. First thing is that the diner gig is modeled on one that the director headlined in his youth.
Headline?
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Because I think that's how he got the inspiration for this movie, is because he also was in a punk rock band.
Oh, that's cool.
And also just for a moment, like, can you imagine going to a restaurant?
I would absolutely love that.
That's happened multiple times in Austin, where like it's not screaming like this, but I'll go to a brewery and just like be hanging out, just having a drink. I mean, this is like years ago now because, quarantine, but we'll just be sitting there having a drink, and then a band starts to set up, and I'm like, all right, we got to leave in like 20 minutes before they start because it's going to be so fucking loud. Nobody believes in acoustic anymore. Like it's insane. And like some of the places that I go to, how small they are, the audacity to put a fucking amp on a stage and just play.
While you're eating your avocado toast.
Yeah, and like I don't know, maybe it's just for me. I'm starting to learn that like just loud music is overwhelming for me. So maybe it's just me, but I think it's too goddamn loud. I'm just trying to eat my rice and beans.
Rice and beans.
And a quick note about the music. So while the tracks were recorded separately, during the stage performances, the actors and actress actually performed their songs. Anton Yelchin, Aaliyah Shawkat already knew how to play their instruments, but according to the director, Callum Turner had no experience with any sort of music. Joel Cole also learned to play drums specifically for this movie. So I think Callum is the lead singer, maybe? And then Joe Cole is like the guy later that like wrestles the bigger guy.
He is a drummer.
Yeah, I just want to like, that's a visual cue for people that don't remember anybody's names or who these actors are. Because I don't know. I know like two of their names. But yeah. All right. So they get to their new gig and the vibe already off.
Very, very off.
And I don't know if they know exactly what kind of air, like, do they know already where they're playing? That it's full of Nazis?
Yeah, because they asked Tad, their like promoter, I guess that's what he is.
Yeah.
Like what the vibe is. And he's like, I'd play like your earlier music, some of your hardcore, like more hardcore stuff. So they kind of know what they're getting into. And when they get there, the lead singer is talking because Tad mentions that his cousin, the guy who the guy who's going to be at the venue, he mentions that him and his girlfriend are going to stay there over the night, which is an important detail.
Oh, I didn't even connect that.
Yeah. So he's like, my cousin will be there, but he's going to be dipping because he's going to be staying at my place, so I got to clean up. That's why I'm not going. Tad says that. So when they get there, the lead singer is like you should be careful going back to your cousins. And he's like, don't fucking mention that. Like the cousin, Daniel, says that. He's like, don't fucking mention that. I missed that too, my first viewing. And this one, I was like, okay.
Wow, I was too cocky. I was like, I know this movie. But yeah, oh shit.
No, I told you I appreciate this movie a lot more, and I did.
Holy shit, that's amazing. And then there's like a scene at the end that I remember that's like so sad now that I know that.
Yeah.
Oh wow, God, this movie's amazing. But yeah, they kind of joke. I wonder, I should have done research on this, but I don't want to research Nazis because fuck them. But I'm just like curious about the whole punk rock scene. I wouldn't think it would be like embedded with a bunch of Nazis. Because aren't they like anti-establishment, like any sort of establishment? Or tell us in the comments. I don't know.
I don't know. I really don't know.
I do. I mean, we'll get to. I do like how they kind of fuck with them. It's very funny to me. But yeah,
it could be the whole skinhead thing, not so much the punk thing.
Yeah, but it just feels dumb. But like I said, Nazis feel dumb. So I don't know. All right, and so now they make it to the infamous green room. And the important thing, I mean, now at this point it's just a green room, but the important thing to remember is that Sam she puts her phone to charge and she leaves it in there. Oh, and then a fun fact about the green room is that it's actually constructed on a film stage.
Very nice. That's cool.
And so the first song that the band plays at the club is a cover of the Dead Kennedy song "Nazi Punks Fuck Off," and everybody is pissed.
So in the green room, they can tell that there's like all these Nazis when they walk in, and Anton or Pat's character. Or Anton's character Pat is like, "Hey, I have a good idea for a joke," and the idea is to play that song.
Yeah.
And like right up when they're on stage, it's so funny. I laugh so hard when he's like, "All right, we don't have to do this, guys. We don't have to do this."
Oh yeah, and then Sam's like, "You better shut up, or I'm going to tell them you're Jewish."
Yeah.
Oh God. I would be so scared. They just so hateful and they had a reason to be scared.
Definitely. I mean, that's what I felt anxious watching them, because I'm like, man, I can't even imagine myself in that position. And I don't know, because like as soon as they play it, all the Nazis start like booing and spitting at them, throwing all their beer cans and stuff. It's just like,
and then they play another song that doesn't mention anything, and they're like, oh, okay, like they're so fucking stupid.
Yeah, they start vibing. I like that scene a lot, where they start playing their own set and everyone's just vibing. It's like classical music playing. It's all slow-mo, and they're just all vibing, man. It's so cool. I like that scene a lot.
All right, and so after their show, Pat goes they're about to leave. I think they're about to go into the green room, and then their stuff is just in the hallway, and the guy's like, "Yeah, sorry, we had to move your stuff for the headliner." And they're like, "Okay." And then Pat goes back to get Sam's phone because she forgot it, and then he walks in on a murder scene. And there's just a dead girl on the floor with a knife in her head. And just a bunch of, I didn't really take like detailed notes in this area, but basically the band gets stuck in that green room with the dead person and with I think two of the Nazis, or I don't know, it's like four people that are not with the band. And there's a part where I think Pat, one of them is like, well, maybe she's not dead because I think you can get stabbed and like maybe you were not dead. And then one of the assholes is like, she's dead. And so, well, I don't know if it's a fun fact, it's a fact, or some trivia. So in this scene where her body is dragged by the knife that's stuck in her head, was inspired by a prison documentary that the director saw on TV that greatly disturbed him.
Yeah, he yanks it, bro. He yanks it.
And then, that's why. So I think it was Pat that said maybe she's not dead because there's no blood. And then as soon as he takes the knife out, blood goes everywhere. And he's like, well, there it is.
Yeah.
What an asshole. All right. And so, and a fun thing about the dynamic between everybody that's in the green room right now is if you look visually at the people that are not the band and then the band, in like once we progress, Imogen Poot's character, I don't remember her name, so I just call her the blonde girl.
Amber.
So she is visually cut off from the band. Like you don't really see her as much. And anytime she does, she's on the other side, or she's just like not directly in the same frame as them. Until there's one part later, where they do start to include her. And I think they say it's a close-up, and I think it's the close-up where two of the people in the band are behind her and she's in the middle. And it's like, it kind of closes in on her. And you have to watch it, but it's like a really cool scene where she's like finally like a part of them.
Yeah, I gotta watch it again.
Oh, okay. So, one thing I forgot to mention is that whenever Pat got the phone and he was like trying to run out and just get out of there, he called 911, and one of the other guys, one of the Nazis, he took the phone from him and he finished the 911 call. And it's very strange because he does tell the operator there was a stabbing. And so I'm like, okay, what is the game plan here? And when the cops do arrive, or before they do, they have these two twins outside, and they're basically staging a stabbing and saying that was the stabbing they were talking about. And they're just kind of giving them a prep talk, being like, hey, or a pep talk, saying like, hey, it'll just be a misdemeanor. I don't know. He just like is reassuring him like, it'll be fine. We'll get you out. Like, don't worry about it.
It's so like eerie too, because he says like, if you do time, I'll double what you're getting paid or something like that. It's like they've done this before. They know how to handle it. And it's like crazy how fast it all happens.
And I really hate to like compliment them, but it's very smart.
Oh, very, very smart.
And then here we see Sir Patrick Stewart.
What an entrance.
And I have just a couple of things just about him. So the first one is Sir Patrick Stewart said in an interview that when he finished reading the script at his country home in England, it was so terrifying that he locked up his house, turned on the security system, and poured himself a scotch. He then knew he wanted to play Darcy Banker because a character that horrifying would be an incredible challenge and make for a compelling movie.
Wow.
The next thing, go on.
I wonder if it's because, like you said, it was his home in England, and that's where like the skinhead movement like originated.
I mean, and just like the visuals we see.
That's very true.
Just imagine the description of that. Ugh. That's terrifying. And reading it by yourself, no way. The next one is that Patrick Stewart's first day on set was the director's least favorite because he left, quote, this amazing actor sitting there while he spent time on insert shots and risked losing the light. Quote, the next morning we had a very nice chat and I apologize for my inefficiency. God, I would be so fucking nervous. Making a movie and having an actor of that caliber there, just watching you make a movie. Oh my God.
Patrick Stewart
himself.
Professor X watching you. Ridiculous.
With that windbreaker on. Also, I thought it was funny at the first I never thought of this before, but like the whole we cut back to the green room after this is happening, and they're basically like the first time we meet Darcy is whenever he's like trying to figure out, like scoping out the situation, seeing what's happening, what they have to do. And then we cut back to the green room, and there's this dead person on the floor. There's these two people. One of the guy, I think he has a gun at this point, and you just like can hear the band playing, like the headliners, and it's also punk rock, and it's also them just screaming, and so it's just such a disturbing soundtrack to have during the worst moment of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was fucking hilarious, but and then we have just like weird mind games where Darcy tells the guy, I think his name is Josh, like Big Josh or something. They tell him to give the band the gun. And he's like, what? Huh? But then he does. And then they have a struggle that Darcy gets like super angry because I think this is when one of the bandmates tackles the big guy. My notes are kind of jumbled throughout this because I was so into the movie. But then the lights go out. They all start panicking because they're trying to subdue this guy. And then that's when Amber, I think this is the moment when Amber like joins the group because she has the lighter from her dead friend. She lights it, and I forget what she says, but it's so funny. It's a really striking visual too, because it's completely dark and then we just see her light, and then she lights a cigarette and she gives it to the guy, and she's like, if you see or what did she say? If you see him do something you don't like, then shoot. And then she goes and sits down.
Oh yeah.
Like she's like, just the way that she's so annoyed with them. She's like, it's that easy. Just give him a cigarette. Yeah, and so I don't know, it's just a very panicky moment, and I'm also panicky because I know what's going to happen, but it still makes me, there's certain scenes in this movie that I cannot watch. All right, and so the lights go back on, and then my notes. All right, and then Darcy gets on the mic and tells everybody to leave, because when the lights go out, it doesn't just go out for the green room; it goes out for the entire place. And they basically orchestrate it so that they can tell people like, "Hey, the generator's back on, but we can't have this right now. But you can come back tomorrow, and we'll have free drinks from 2 to 4, which is a great deal, by the way." And then Darcy goes back with his guys to the door of the green room, and he tells the band that they want the gun out of the picture because it's not registered. And he says that wait, what? Oh, he says that if they don't give the gun to him, he'll frame them because it's not registered. It could very well be their gun. And so he could tell the police that they are threatening his people. Which is actually kind of smart, and that's when you're like, oh, that's why he gave them the gun. Because I mean, what's like he obviously doesn't really value his people. They feel like disposable to him.
Right.
All right, and so this is where I want to pause and ask you, what would you do? Because at this moment, they want the gun. Darcy and his people want the gun. So if you're the band, and at this moment, they're also trying to figure out what the fuck they're going to do, what would you do?
I probably would do what they're doing. I would not give them the gun. And I'd say, I'm waiting for the police because, like, we saw him complete the 911 call. I'm waiting for the police, like, without a doubt. Like, in that scenario, that's the only thing you can really do. I mean, I think they played it pretty smart up until a certain point.
Yeah. It's kind of hard. I mean, now it's easy for us to say what we would do, but I can't even imagine how I would be thinking in like a situation like that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective as the viewer, we know that they're framing them, but I would have no idea. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be smart enough to know that they're framing.
Well, I think he said
for
that.
this murder.
He said that like all the police would know is that a band has a gun and they pulled it out on us and we're trying to defend ourselves.
Right.
So,
man.
Yeah, crazy. But okay. So this is the part that I almost fast forwarded through because I don't like to watch it. It makes me very anxious. But I watched it. And I don't know why.
It's rough.
So this is when they decide we're going to give them a gun. And they open the door and Pat is like going to hand, he's like, I'm going to throw the gun to you, which like he does not. Why do you put your hand outside? I would be like, okay. Oh, I would tell that girl, Amber, open the door real quick. I'm fucking throwing it. Like,
right.
I don't know. So that he opens it and he just sees Darcy. So he's like, and Darcy has his hands up. So nothing looks suspicious. So he reaches his hand out to give him the gun and they fucking maim his hand. It's bad.
Well, Amber sees it because there's like a little vent at the bottom and she sees the little boots with red laces and she's like, keep the fucking gun, they're gonna hurt you or whatever, like they're gonna kill us. It's bad. They had like a blade or something and then just like chopped it. They just chopped it, man. It was rough. I hate that.
It was like it wasn't even attached to the bone anymore. Oh.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like a more intense version. I hate that it made me think of this,
God.
But you know what I'm gonna say?
Of your fucking pinky.
Oh, no. In Harry Potter, when Ron, like, he goes through
yeah.
Kind of like that, but it was like way more intense. It looked like he had a candy cane arm.
That was kind of traumatizing as a child, because when I saw it, I was pretty young. So that was scary. But yeah, this is like
way worse.
Ugh. And what makes it worse, because like I don't know if I had. Let me see.
His scream too.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know if I put this in the fun facts. If I do, I can read it again. But I think the director said he was nervous about the prosthetic because he thought it didn't look real. But then once they used it and they had like Anton to act it out, he said it was perfect because just the way he screamed and just how he acted with it, it felt so real. And I totally agree because this movie was always like had a very bad vibe to it, but this is the turn. And I remember because I watched this in theaters, and so when I watched this part, that's when I was like, fuck, this is gonna be a rough ride. Because there's no indicator of how gruesome it's going to get. I mean, he pulls the girl by the fucking sword by the knife, and that's pretty brutal, but this is like another thing.
Yeah, and his acting is so good. It's just like, it just feels like it's happening to me. I was like grabbing my arm. I was like,
so scary. And a fun fact about that is that the conversation through the door between Pat and Darcy, so Anton and Patrick Stewart, was shot with 2 cameras, one on either side to fully capture both actors, but the director knew he'd hardly be using any of the footage of Stewart. He wanted the character to trump Stewart's star power, but more than that, he wanted the weight. I should have read this before. He wanted the weight of the character to be seen and felt through the band members.
I mean,
which is very smart.
I felt that because he felt bigger than what he actually was. I mean, he's kind of an old dude, right? But he felt like menacing because the way he said, like, I'm not guilty. You guys, for all we know, like from anyone's perspective, it's just you guys are guilty, like you said.
So level-headed.
It's like,
it's creepy.
Wow. This dude holds all the cards and all they did was get a phone.
Yeah. Oh. And then throughout all this, I forgot to mention that one of the band members also broke that big guy's arm. And then
he started
choking him, and then I really like that moment though where he's choking him and then he like comes to again, like he like gets up, and so he has to do it again. And when he's choking him out, I think he realizes that he can't like knock him out, he has to kill him. And so he starts crying, like the band member that's doing it. And it felt like, I don't think I've ever seen something like that where like this is obviously something they felt like they had to do, but they didn't want to be a part of this. Right.
And I think the other band member, Sam, is like, how do you know? How do you know if he's dead?
Yeah. And I think it just adds to the, like, this movie, it feels like a lot of gruesome movies like Saw, it's like kind of like those, but this one is so much heavier because of the performances, because I would have never thought to have a character ask that question, or to have the character that's killing him not be angry but be sad that he has to kill somebody.
Right.
Ugh, so fucking good. But then after that, and then I think he's trying to decide like what he's gonna do, and then Amber just takes the box cutter and just fucking opens him up like a box. Like, what? The way she does it is,
it's like from the belly button up, and man, you could see like the fat and like the inside. It was just like, I hate that, man. I hate it so much.
My note is, Jesus, this movie is gnarly and it's barely halfway through.
Yeah, this is like, it gets real.
Then after this, they're trying to figure out what the fuck to do. So they found a bunker because they see underneath the floorboards, they see that there's like light coming out. By the way, I haven't mentioned this, but the thing that was really glaring to me about the band was that the lead singer, the one with the green hair, reminds me so much of you. He looks exactly like you.
If I just had green or blue hair.
Or was it blue or green or?
I couldn't. I don't really remember one of those. But
she asked Kayla if she thought that, because
she didn't watch it. I knew. I don't know how she'd feel. Kayla, have you ever seen Green Room?
Is that the one where they kidnap this lady? They kidnap Brie Larson.
No,
that's The Room.
No, she's never seen it. I don't know if she'd like it because of that gruesome part. So we just talked about. So I watched it by myself.
She might like it. I don't know. All right. So yeah, they find a bunker. And then they realize, because it's filled to the brim with heroin. And so they realize that this is what this is about. Like, at this point, they're like, yeah, they're gonna fucking kill us. Like, we're between their heroin. We're between what is making them all the money, or just what their entire operation is about. So of course that's why they're like fucking cutting his arm off, you know. And at this point, I said that I've kind of forgot the story that Pat tells. But I've always said, if I in a situation like this where I was like sure I was going to die, I would want to cause as much damage to them as I could.
Definitely.
Like, if I know it's like there's no fighting chance for me, that's what I would do. And get
burn
that
it
at the end.
do something to it.
All right.
Wait, one thing, because they find duct tape in there and they duct tape Pat's arm. That also hurt me a lot. Because imagine taking that off.
Yeah.
Duct tape taking it off on your arm hurts regardless, but.
And then there's a moment, I thought I took a note about this, but whenever he's like sitting there, and I think that he's doing that, and then his band member's trying to like distract him, and he's like, Pat is like really upset, and for the arm, of course, but also he tells him he's like upset that he couldn't keep the gun. I think he tells one of the guys, he like mentions like, I lost the gun, because I think as soon as he realized something bad was happening, and I didn't realize this either, that he was holding on to the gun, and that's why his arm was like cut up so bad. It's because he was trying to keep it, and he told his band member that, like, he was upset about that, and the guy was like, I would have dropped it so fast.
Yeah, that gun would not be anywhere near me.
No. All right. So, and then there's a paintball story that Pat starts, but then they're like, dude, we don't have time for this. A fun fact about the paintball story is that it's a real experience that the writer director had. And Rick Spears, who he mentioned by name, is a real person who did as said in the story. And we get to that later, like what exactly he did.
I love that story.
I thought that was hilarious. And I think that's a good example of like, if you ever come across, like if you ever have an experience like that, if you're a writer and you have an experience like that, always write it down, because it can come into like, it can make an idea. When you're writing something, like maybe the director was writing this movie and then he thought of that and was like, oh, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Yeah, so it's just good to write down every single thing that you're thinking of. All right, so then they're like, fuck it, let's just run. Because like I said, there's no way that they're letting them out of there. So it's a terrible idea, but I don't blame them for trying. And I 100% would have been the first to die.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, so they go out into like the concert venue, and then one of the guys walks in with a dog, and he releases it on them, and he attacks the lead singer that looks like you. And a fun fact about this dog is they had an elaborate dog puppet built, but only ended up using it in one insert shot at around the 53-minute mark. The initial idea was that they'd need the puppet for the sequence where one attacks Amber's leg. This is later. No, this is the scene. Up until it's run off by the feedback from the microphone. But they accomplished the scene with real dogs, stunt performers, and Imogene Poots herself. But there is a part, if you look at it, where she's like hitting the dog with a mic stand. She actually did, like, if you look at it, she's not actually hitting it. She's kind of like just like pushing its head. But that's actually a foam microphone stand, so it didn't hurt the dog.
Nice.
Sorry. All right. So another band member, after the lead singer is done, I mean, the dog like absolutely chews up his entire throat. So he's done.
That's gruesome too. Very gruesome.
Everything in this movie's gruesome. And then another band member gets out. I think he gets out through like a window. And as soon as he drops, somebody attacks him, I think with a hatchet or like a knife or
just
something.
stab the hell out of him.
Ouch. And then, so he's also gone. And then there's 2 remaining band members and then Amber, and they go back into the green room because they're like, fuck this. And I think it's after, like I said, after Amber is attacked by the dog. Maybe later. I don't know. So now is where this gets interesting because 2 of the Nazis that go finish this job, one of them is like normal, but the other one is the cousin that we talked about. And he is pissed when he sees that the woman is dead. The woman from the beginning. He is distraught, honestly. And we learn from this because we kind of learn or the people in the green room and then the Nazis outside learn at the same time that this guy, the cousin, he had a plan to escape with the girl that they killed.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't mention this at the beginning, but Darcy, whenever he had to get this guy, the cousin, to like start doing stuff, he was just waiting in his car with the engine running. And he said he had just had to like turn the engine over, and then that's when Darcy like remembered that and he went to his car and he saw that everything was packed and that they were on the run.
Right. Which was why at the beginning when they got there and the lead singer brought him up, he's like, don't fucking say that because they don't want him to leave. No one can get out.
Exactly. Alrighty. And so
boom.
So the other guy like leaves. He's like, just get the fuck out of here. So he leaves. And then the cousin's like, you know what? I'll help y'all. He helps the people in the green room, the band members, and then Amber. And so they're about to leave. And I remember that he gets shot in the face, but I forgot how fucking fast they did it. And it scared the absolute shit out of me.
It's amazing timing because there's a shotgun under the bar and he's like taking out some shells. He's like, I know something you guys don't. And then the bartender is like, oh, too late, and shoots him in the face and says too late because he got the shotgun. Yeah. It's brutal.
So bad. All right. But then they do end up getting the gun from the bartender.
But Sam dies.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. But Imogene or Amber gets shot, and then Sam is like, "Fuck this, I'm gonna leave." But then she gets mauled by the dog. Wait, am I missing something? Oh no, so they got the gun, and that's when all of them are like, "We'll go and just run out of here." But Sam doesn't make it. Then Pat and Amber get back into the green room. At this point, I didn't realize that they had tried to leave twice and then they had to go back. So Amber and Pat just go inside to the green room and they're just chilling on the couch. And Pat's like, I cannot fucking die here, which I think I would also be like, at this point, yeah, me neither. And then Amber's like, just tell me the rest of your story. I want to hear it. And so he finishes it, and he says that basically, so at the beginning, I didn't mention what it was, but at the beginning, he was talking about how him and his friends went to go play paintball, and then I think they said that they paired them up with a group of Marines, and they just like absolutely murdered all of them and just was tearing through each and every one of them, and it just wasn't fun. And so the second time that they went to go play with them, this Rick Spears guy was like, you know what? I'm just going to fucking go for it. And so he just started like shooting and like just, I think he just like fucking was like, since like what we were saying, since I'm going to get shot with paintballs anyways, I'm just going to try to get as many as I can.
Yeah, he didn't care. He didn't care about getting undercover, and he wiped out the entire team, the ex-Marines,
by himself. And he just went for it. He went for his dreams. And honestly,
I love this story.
Yeah, because I love the way they did it too, where he was like, I was so interested in what he was going to say. And then they were like, we don't have time for this.
Yeah. I do that with another thing, but we'll talk about it. But I just love the way he tells the story. And it's like, it's my favorite part of the movie. Because it's just like, at that point, honestly, that's like what what I needed to hear from that movie.
Yeah.
It just felt like a perfect time to put that story in, because it's like literally their last stand. That's all they have to do is like give everything that they have, play as smart as they can. I mean, do whatever they can to stay alive.
I mean, there's a lot to lose, but like they just got to try something at this point. And so the rest of, I think Darcy's like, they're winding down because I think they get cocky and they're like, they're just going to send in 2 of the guys to finish it. And then one of the guys just puts on an apron and is about to just clean it all up. And then these 2 guys go in and they're just absolutely bullying these guys. They're like, I think Pat is like down into the little hatch and he's just messing with this guy. Amber is trying to get him to, because he only has 3 rounds. And so they're counting them out loud, which I think is a great, just a great moment in this movie. And I love it. I just love that they're bullying them. I think it's hilarious. Ta-da. All right. And so after this, they end up killing those 2 guys because they're smarter than them. And they get out and they let the guy that's cleaning, he's just like, fuck. And I think he tells them like, I don't want to go to jail, but I am also not going to kill you guys. And so they're like, okay, you can go. And he just starts walking into the woods.
Well, they tell him to go to call for help, like call the cops or something like that.
And so he just starts walking. And then Pat and Amber just go into the woods and they find Pat's band's van. And they see that they're basically staging a crime scene so that it'll look like they were stealing from them. I think that they were siphoning their gas and that the dogs just attack them. And one thing that I forgot to mention is that Darcy and all of his like guys were very particular about not shooting any of the bandmates, that they wanted them to be stabbed or to be, I think they said, what did they say? Blades or in fangs? Something like that.
Something like that.
And it was for that reason, so that it would look like the dogs killed them or just whatever happened. Which, and again, like, it made me very angry that it was so smart. And a little fun fact about this, so they do, like, they end up going and, like, what's the word? Like, pointing guns at them and basically getting them to just like get away from the whole scene. And a fun fact about it is that the bit where, I don't know if you see where like Pat is like holding the gun to the guy through the like van window. And there's a part where you can see Pat's sleeve catching onto the van mirror while he's like trying to move around to the front of it. And that was actually a recreation of an earlier take where Anton actually accidentally did that. And so the director was like, do it again. And I really liked that. See, I just love these little tidbits that make it feel real. Like it feels like it is a mistake, but he's like, oh, I love it. Let's put it in.
Because I mean, he's like nervous. He's never done this before. He didn't think he was going to be doing that. So it just made sense.
And then after this, they basically just move the guys up to like, I guess where Darcy lives. And they kill all of them, including Darcy.
Well, there's an important thing I want to point out. Yeah. It's like, so they like line them up, Darcy and the other dude, and they're just like, I don't know what Darcy says, but he just like turns around and walks away.
Yeah.
And it's like, I found that super surprising. I guess I don't know what else he could have done, but he just like turned away, pulled out his gun. And then another thing is Pat said at the beginning, because when they first got the gun in the green room, he was like, he was like, I'm not a good shot. Like I shouldn't get the gun, but he shoots him in the head straight up.
Yeah. Another thing Pat tells him, when he sees Darcy, he says, "You were scarier in the dark."
Yeah.
Which I love. But yeah, that was kind of weird why he walked away. I don't know if you want to dissect that, like why he did that. I think
I don't know.
He was going to die maybe, but he had a gun.
He just turned around and started walking. I don't know.
He pulled out a gun and he started walking.
Yeah. I honestly have no idea.
I will say that maybe that's a big indicator of like who he is as a person. Like maybe he didn't want to kill people, but he doesn't mind like having other people do it, but he's too much of a coward to do it himself.
I don't know, because he tried to shoot at the end.
Oh yeah. But I don't know. I think he's just a coward.
Something we kind of skipped was so the main band, Worm, and I don't remember the other dude, Worm, like WERM.
Mm-hmm.
Darcy had gifted them heroin and told them to hide out, and it was like poisoned heroin, so they killed them. We didn't talk about that, but minor detail, just in case anyone was wondering what happened to them, and they didn't watch the movie. Because there's a scene where you can see that one of the, I think Worm it was shooting up, and he was just like dead.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little small thing, just in case anyone was. I don't know if people watch the movie or don't watch a movie. So if you don't, just because of like, I don't know, gore reasons, that happens.
All right, and so my last fun fact, I have another one, but it's not really. It's more about the movie he made before this one. So if you're interested, go on IMDb. But my last fun fact is my favorite one, which is that the first, and don't look at the doc. Did you look at the Google Doc?
No.
Okay. The last and first words spoken in the movie are the same. And do you remember what it is? Oh, I didn't write it down. It doesn't matter if you look at the doc.
I have the doc open, but I'm not looking at it. The last line I remember, it's Amber, and she says something along the lines, because he's like, I finally figured out what my desert band island was, and she says something like, I don't give a F or something.
She says, tell somebody who gives a shit. So the first and last word is shit.
That's funny.
Because I think that's when Pat wakes up and he says shit or something.
That's cool.
But okay, the last thing I'm going to talk about for this movie, because we already said how much we love it, unless you have another thing to talk about.
No, not really.
This is kind of a big question that I didn't think I was going to ask, but I'm going to ask. So a running theme throughout this movie that I didn't talk about is desert island bands. And the first mention of it is when Tad is interviewing them and he asks them that, and they have these like, well, like, gonna do Black Sabbath or like just all these like, you know, what they would choose. And then the first time the band is about to go out and just try to run out of there, they start to tell what their actual desert island bands were. And I think the drummer said Prince. One of them said Simon and Garfunkel. Yeah, and then I forgot the other ones, but basically just like not what you would think they would say.
The lead singer still said the Misfits.
Yeah. Well, I think he like went back and forth when they first asked him. But this one he was like, I know. And so that it's like in the beginning, the middle, and at the very end, that's her response to it, where Pat's like, do you want to know what my desert band is? My desert island band is. And she said, tell somebody who gives a shit. But he can't, because the people that give a shit are all dead.
Yeah. I like that though. I like that that it like changed when they realized that they were probably all gonna die. I mean, they did.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. But that's what my question is who is yours?
Probably Queen.
That's a good one.
Honestly, probably Queen.
All right, now who's your real one? No, I'm kidding. Simon and Garfunkel.
Simon and Garfunkel.
I would say Prince is a solid answer. But I also really love Young the Giant. I could listen to like they're the only band I could probably listen to every single song they've done.
I was gonna say that, but I knew you were gonna pick that because their entire like self-titled album, Perfect. Young the Giant, I could listen to front and back all day. Even Mirror Master, like all of their, if you look, I just have pretty much all of that album saved in which is very rare.
Maybe that'll be my question of the week.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Any other things to say about Green Room?
Great movie. Pretty intense if you don't like gore. But I'd highly recommend it. Highly recommend. If this is the end of spooky season, I'm glad I picked it. Yeah.
All right. So I was going back and forth on what I should do, because part of me was like, let's do something totally different than spooky season, but also like, fuck you, Anthony. Why do you get the last choice?
Yeah.
But I'm going to pick a movie that I actually don't know what it is. I've heard a lot about it, and TikTok keeps telling me to watch it.
Oh, no.
No, I think it'll be good, because it's supposed to, I think it'll hopefully cause a good conversation, because I think it's one of those movies where it's like, what is happening? But it's a movie on Netflix called Fractured. Fractured on Netflix, and I'll read the Netflix description. After his wife and injured daughter disappear from an ER, a man conducts a panicked search and becomes convinced the hospital is hiding something.
Whoa.
Fractured on Netflix.
Cool.
And I've heard it's wild. So, and like I said, I don't really know if it's spooky or not, because all I know is that it's just like a surprising movie.
Oh, okay.
But we'll see. The other option, in case anybody's interested, was going to be Signs, but I don't know if I could bring myself to do research on aliens.
Yeah, that's scary.
But yeah, but maybe we can ease into a different genre with this one. But I'm excited. I don't think we've done one that we haven't seen, that neither of us have seen before, so this will be fun.
Yeah, that'll be cool. No, I think there's one. There has to be one.
What do you mean?
There has to be one movie that we both picked that we picked that we had never seen before.
Oh, I know there's been one, but I'm just saying recently we haven't done one.
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
All right. Keep that in, because Mom and Dad will be pissed. All right. So follow us on Instagram at Brother Sister Show, and then our Twitter is at Bro Sis Show. Yeah. Oh, and now that we're out of spooky season, we're now accepting suggestions. So please send us any suggestions that you have. The only caveat, the only rule that we have is they have to be available on a streaming service. Any of the major ones, no, like Tubi or whatever the fuck people are trying to get me to watch now, no. HBO Max, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and we'll accept...
Not Quibi either. I mean, they're shutting down, but...
Man.
They're in cinema history alongside Movie Pass.
Oh. Dang, I still have my Movie Pass card.
So do I. Rough.
All right. Let us know. Oh, and then rate, review, and subscribe. Please.
Oh yeah.
We've never asked for that. But please, if you've never left us a review or rated us on Apple Podcasts, please do it, because it helps us just get to more people, gives us more credibility, and give us 5 stars, please, if you like this. If not, tell us what we need to do and we'll get it. We're desperate.
Run us our review if we deserve it.
Yeah. Oh,
Run it.
I'll try to, if you do, I'll try to check it every week. If not, message us and then I'll read it on the podcast. So please.
We've only read one before.
Because we only have one. All right. That's it. Let's end this.
Bye.
Bye.